What if I told you that right now, at this very moment, two titans of human understanding are having a conversation inside your mind? You can't hear them. You can't see them. But they're there. One whispers about the darkness you've been hiding from yourself. The other roars about the power you've forgotten you possess. Both are fighting for the same thing: your freedom. But here's the twist. Nobody talks about they're not fighting each other. They're fighting for you, against the invisible prison you've built around yourself without even knowing it. Carl Jung sits in the shadows of your psyche, patient as a therapist, holding up a mirror to parts of yourself you've spent years avoiding. Friedrich Nietzsche stands at the edge of your comfort zone, wild-eyed and fierce, daring you to shatter every lie you've told yourself about who you're supposed to be. And the question hanging between them, the same question that haunts every human being who's ever felt stuck, lost, or secretly desperate for something more. How do you become free when you don't even know you're trapped? Picture this. You're standing at the edge of a cliff. Below you, an endless abyss of meaninglessness stretches into darkness. Behind you, the safe path everyone else is walking, lined with rules and expectations that feel like chains around your soul. Nietzsche looks at you from across that void and says something that will either terrify you or set you free. Nobody is coming to save you. Not God, not society, not your parents, your partner, or your therapist. The cavalry isn't coming. The rescue mission was canceled before it started. But here's where it gets interesting. Nietzsche doesn't say this to crush you. He says it to wake you up. Because in that moment of absolute aloneness, when you realize you're the only one who can save yourself, something extraordinary happens. You discover you have power you never knew existed. If you gaze long into the abyss, Nietzsche warns, the abyss gazes back. Most people run from this truth. They prefer the comfortable illusion that someone else will solve their problems. But what if you didn't run? What if you stared back? The abyss doesn't destroy you. It reveals you. Nietzsche calls this person the Übermensch, the Superman. But forget the comic book version. This isn't about flying or shooting lasers from your eyes. This is about something far more radical, becoming the author of your own values. Think about it. Every rule you follow, every should and must that governs your life, who wrote those? Your parents, your culture, your religion, some dead philosopher you've never met. What if you could write your own rules instead? Now, I know what you're thinking. That sounds dangerous. What about morality? What about society? And you're right to be concerned. Nietzsche isn't advocating for chaos or cruelty. He's advocating for something far more threatening to the status quo: authentic individual power. The Übermensch doesn't destroy for the sake of destruction. They create. They look at the meaningless void and say, fine, if there's no inherent meaning, I'll create my own. But here's the catch, and this is where most people get stuck. Creating your own meaning isn't about positive thinking or vision boards. It's about enduring. It's about taking your suffering and transforming it into strength. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, Nietzsche said. But he wasn't talking about going to the gym. He was talking about psychological resilience, the ability to face pain, rejection, failure, and loss without breaking, without becoming bitter, without giving up on the possibility of greatness. Society wants you weak. It wants you dependent. It wants you to follow the herd because herds are predictable, controllable, profitable. But every moment you choose to think for yourself, to act according to your own values rather than inherited ones, you become a little more free. And freedom, Nietzsche reminds us, is terrifying. Because once you're free, you're responsible for everything. Your choices, your happiness, your suffering, your success, your failure. There's no one else to blame, no higher power to petition, no system to save you, just you, standing at the edge of that cliff, deciding whether to jump or to fly. But wait, there's something Nietzsche missed, or maybe he saw it but didn't want to talk about it. Carl Jung leans forward and asks a question that changes everything. How can you become free when you don't even know who you are? You see, Jung discovered something unsettling. Most of us aren't just fighting external oppression. We're fighting an internal war we don't even know is happening. There's a part of your personality, Jung called it the shadow, that you've been hiding from yourself your entire life. Your shadow is everything you've decided you're not allowed to be. Your anger, your selfishness, your lust, your greed, your cruelty, your weakness, all the parts of yourself you've stuffed down, denied, or projected onto other people. But here's the thing Jung realized that changes everything. Your shadow isn't your enemy, it's your power source. Let me tell you a story. There once was a man who prided himself on being kind. He never raised his voice, never said no to anyone, never expressed anger or frustration. He was the perfect gentleman, the perfect employee, the perfect husband. And he was miserable. Why? Because he'd cut himself off from half of his emotional range. He'd buried his shadow so deep that he couldn't access its energy. He was like a car trying to run on half its cylinders. One day, this man came to Jung and said, "I don't understand why I'm so depressed. I do everything right. I'm a good person." Jung smiled and said, "That's your problem. You're trying to be good instead of trying to be whole." Shadow work isn't about becoming a bad person. It's about becoming a complete person. It's about integrating all aspects of yourself, not just the parts you like, but the parts you've been ashamed of. When you suppress your shadow, it doesn't disappear. It goes underground. It starts controlling your behavior in ways you don't recognize. You might find yourself attracted to people who express your shadow for you. You might sabotage your own success because deep down, you don't feel worthy of it. You might explode in anger at seemingly small things because you've been accumulating unexpressed rage for years. Jung called this projection. Instead of owning your shadow, you see it in everyone else. The person who annoys you most. They're probably expressing a shadow aspect you refuse to acknowledge in yourself. But here's where it gets really interesting. Jung discovered that neurosis, mental and emotional suffering, often comes from this internal split. Your conscious mind wants one thing, your shadow wants another, and you're caught in the middle, paralyzed by the conflict. The solution isn't to choose one side or the other. It's to integrate both, to become whole, to stop fighting a civil war in your own psyche. Jung called this process individuation. It's not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming authentic. It's about accepting all aspects of yourself and learning to harness their energy constructively. When you integrate your shadow, something magical happens. You stop being afraid of other people's opinions because you've already faced the worst things about yourself. You stop being manipulated by guilt and shame because you've accepted your human imperfection. You stop trying to be someone else's idea of good and start being your own version of whole. Now here's where things get fascinating. Nietzsche and Jung are trying to solve the same problem, but they're approaching it from completely different angles. Nietzsche says, break the chains that bind you from the outside. Jung says, heal the wounds that bind you from the inside. Nietzsche's path is like a rebellion. He wants you to smash the idols, reject the herd, and create your own values through sheer force of will. His message is revolutionary. You don't need anyone's permission to be great. Jung's path is like a therapy session. He wants you to understand your patterns, integrate your shadow, and become whole through patient self-examination. His message is evolutionary. You can't transcend what you don't understand. But here's what's beautiful about both approaches. They're both saying the same thing in different languages. They're both telling you that salvation is an inside job. Nietzsche focuses on power, not power over others, but power over yourself. The power to choose your own values, to create your own meaning, to rise above your circumstances through sheer will. Jung focuses on wholeness, not perfection, but integration. The ability to embrace all aspects of yourself and to live authentically from that place of completeness. Nietzsche's ideal is the Übermensch, the person who has transcended conventional morality and created their own values. Jung's ideal is the individuated person, the person who has integrated their conscious and unconscious minds into a harmonious whole. Different destinations, or the same mountain climb from different sides. I think they're the same, because you can't truly create your own values until you know who you really are. And you can't know who you really are until you're willing to face the parts of yourself you've been hiding from. The Übermensch and the individuated person are both authentic, self-directed, and free from the need for external validation. They've both done the work of liberation. They've just used different tools. But here's where it gets really interesting. Despite their different approaches, both Nietzsche and Jung arrive at the same earth-shaking conclusion: no one is coming to save you. And that's not a tragedy. It's your greatest opportunity. Think about it. Every religion, every political system, every self-help guru promises the same thing: follow our rules, believe our doctrine, buy our product, and you'll be saved. You'll be happy. You'll be fulfilled. You'll be free. But both Nietzsche and Jung see through this lie. They recognize that external salvation is a trap. Because as long as you're waiting for someone else to save you, you remain powerless. You remain dependent. You remain unfree. Nietzsche's route to liberation is through the destruction of illusions. He wants you to see through the lies society tells you about morality, meaning, and purpose. He wants you to realize that most of what you've been told about how to live is designed to keep you small, safe, and controllable. Jung's route to liberation is through the integration of illusions. He wants you to see through the lies you tell yourself about who you are. He wants you to realize that you've been living a partial existence, cut off from your own power source. Both paths require the same thing: radical honesty. The courage to look at reality without the comforting filters of wishful thinking, social conditioning, or ego protection. When Nietzsche says God is dead, he's not celebrating, he's diagnosing. He's saying that the old sources of meaning and morality are no longer credible. The question is, what do you do with that information? most people panic. They desperately search for a new God, a new authority, a new external source of meaning. But Nietzsche says, stop looking outside yourself. You are the meaning maker. You are the creator of values. You are the God of your own existence. When Jung talks about the shadow, he's not trying to scare you. He's trying to liberate you. He's saying that you've been living as a fraction of yourself, and that's why you feel incomplete, conflicted, and unfulfilled. Most people prefer the illusion of being good to the reality of being whole. But Jung says, stop trying to be perfect. Start trying to be authentic. Embrace your complexity. Integrate your darkness. Become all of who you are. Both messages are terrifying because they place total responsibility on your shoulders. But they're also liberating because they give you total power. Okay, so we've talked about philosophy. Now let's talk about the practice. Because this isn't just abstract thinking. This is your life we're talking about. Every day, you face choices, small ones, big ones, seemingly insignificant ones. But here's what Jung and Nietzsche both understood. These choices are battles in a larger war, a war for your soul. On one side, you have the forces of conformity, social pressure, fear of judgment, the desire to fit in, to be liked, to be safe. These forces whisper, don't rock the boat, follow the rules, be normal. On the other side, you have the forces of authenticity, your deepest values, your hidden dreams, your suppressed anger, your unexpressed creativity. These forces whisper, be yourself, create something meaningful, don't waste your life. Most people live in the middle, torn between these forces, never fully choosing either side. They conform enough to avoid conflict, but rebel enough to feel frustrated. They follow their dreams enough to feel hopeful, but compromise enough to feel disappointed. But what if you stopped living in the middle? What if you chose a side? Jung's approach. Start by getting to know your shadow. Pay attention to the people who irritate you most. What qualities do they have that you claim to hate? Are you sure you don't have those qualities yourself? Are you sure you're not just projecting your own disowned aspects onto them? Notice your patterns. When do you feel most angry, most jealous, most afraid? These emotions are messengers from your shadow. They're trying to tell you something about yourself that you've been refusing to hear. Keep a journal. Write down your dreams, your fears, your secret desires, the things you think but don't say, the things you feel but don't express. Don't judge them, just observe them. Get to know the full spectrum of who you are. Nietzsche's approach. Start by questioning everything. Every belief you hold, every value you follow, every rule you obey. Ask yourself, is this really mine? Or did someone else program this for me? Take responsibility for your life. Stop complaining about your circumstances and start changing them. Stop blaming other people for your problems and start solving them. Stop waiting for permission and start taking action. Create something. Art, business, relationships, experiences. It doesn't matter what. The act of creation is an act of self-assertion. It's you saying to the universe, I was here, I mattered, I left my mark. But here's the integration point, and this is where most people get stuck. You can't transcend what you don't understand, and you can't understand what you refuse to acknowledge. So you need both approaches. You need Jung's patient self-examination, and Nietzsche's fierce self-assertion. You need to understand your patterns and then break them. You need to integrate your shadow and then channel its energy toward your goals. This is the part nobody talks about. The part that happens in the quiet moments. The part that takes place in the space between who you are and who you're becoming. Every day. You wake up and you have a choice. You can be the person you were yesterday, or you can be someone slightly different. The difference might be tiny. A moment of honesty instead of a comfortable lie. A moment of courage instead of familiar fear. A moment of authenticity instead of people-pleasing performance. But those tiny moments accumulate. They compound. They become the story of your life. The revolution isn't dramatic. It's not Instagram-worthy. It's not the kind of thing that makes for good movies or inspiring speeches. It's quiet. It's personal. It's invisible to everyone except you. But it's real. And it's happening right now. You can't outrun yourself. You can change locations, relationships, jobs, even identities. But wherever you go, you take yourself with you. Your patterns, your fears, your unresolved conflicts, your disowned aspects, they follow you until you turn around and face them. Jung understood this. He knew that most people spend their lives running from themselves. They stay busy to avoid inner reflection. They seek external validation to avoid internal examination. They project their problems onto others to avoid taking responsibility. But running doesn't solve anything. It just delays the inevitable confrontation with yourself. Nietzsche understood this too. He knew that most people live in bad faith, pretending to be something they're not, following values they don't believe in, pursuing goals that don't matter to them. But pretending doesn't work forever. Eventually, the mask slips. The performance fails. The authentic self demands recognition. The question is, will you wait for a crisis to force this confrontation, or will you choose it voluntarily? Because here's the thing about liberation. It's not a destination. It's a practice. It's not something you achieve once and then you're done. It's something you choose again and again, moment by moment, day by day. Every time you choose honesty over comfort, growth over safety, authenticity over approval, you liberate yourself a little more. Every time you integrate another aspect of your shadow, question another inherited belief, or take another step toward your true goals, you become a little more free. The battle is invisible. The victory is internal. The revolution is personal. But the effects ripple outward. When you become more authentic, you give others permission to be authentic too. When you integrate your shadow, you stop projecting it onto others. When you take responsibility for your own life, you stop trying to control other people's lives. This is how the world changes. Not through grand gestures or mass movements, but through individual people doing the quiet work of becoming whole. So here we are, at the end of our journey with Jung and Nietzsche, but at the beginning of your journey with yourself. You have a choice to make. You can close this tab, go back to your regular life, and pretend you never heard any of this. You can stay comfortable, safe, and small. You can keep living the life someone else designed for you. Or you can start the revolution. Not a political revolution, not a social revolution. The only revolution that matters, the revolution of the self. It starts with a single question. Who am I when nobody's watching? Not who you pretend to be. Not who you think you should be. Not who others expect you to be. who you actually are, in your most private moments, when all the masks come off. That person, the real you, is worth fighting for, worth liberating, worth becoming. Jung would tell you, start where you are. Look at your life with honest eyes. Notice your patterns. Embrace your shadows. Integrate your contradictions. Become whole. Nietzsche would tell you, start with fire. Question everything. Reject what doesn't serve you. Create your own values. Become powerful. I'm telling you, start with both. Because you need Jung's depth and Nietzsche's force. You need integration and transcendence. You need understanding and action. Your liberation is not a someday project. It's practice right now. It's not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming authentic. It's not about having all the answers. It's about living the questions. The invisible war is real. The stakes are your soul. The prize is your freedom. Are you ready to fight for it? Because Jung and Nietzsche are still there, in the deepest corners of your mind, waiting for your answer. The abyss is still staring back. The shadow is still calling your name. And you have a choice to make. What will it be if you're ready to dive deeper into this journey of self-discovery and liberation? If you want to explore these ideas further and learn practical techniques for integrating your shadow and creating your own values, then stay with us. The conversation between Jung and Nietzsche is just beginning. Subscribe to continue exploring the depths of human consciousness and the path to authentic freedom. Your transformation awaits.